What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Comics Grind YouTube channel. I am one of your hosts, Nico Rodriguez.
And I'm Ken, or AKA Kami Ken.
Comic Ken in the building. So, welcome to our first channel episode. What is this show all about? What is the Comics Grind YouTube channel all about? Just to kind of keep it plain and simple, this is a comics discussion show from the perspective of two cartoonists who are trying to make it in the game. So, just for anything regarding creating comics, whether it's comics that inspire us, whether it's process things, whether it's our struggle and our journey through this at some points crazy industry issues, everything that kind of relates to creating comics, and just kind of like a interesting spin on this channel. The cool thing about it is that we're both different types of cartoonists and we come from different backgrounds. Me myself, I'm a self-taught cartoonist. So I learned everything through osmosis, through studying comics for years, through just many days, nights at the drawing table and the sketchbooks, just trying to get my craft to where I want it to be, and just using all these other inspiration things to kind of evolve my work. And that's kind of where I'm coming from. Ken, on the other hand, he is actually a trained cartoonist that went to the Kubert School, a Kubert School alumni grad. And for any of those of you out there who are at least interested in comics, you probably know the Kubert family and that the Kubert School is the top of the line when it comes to comic art. So we've got two kind of perspectives going on.
Yep.
Ken, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that. And also, I wanted to ask kind of what do you think, or who do you think this YouTube channel is for?
Yeah, I want to say about the Kubert School. It's definitely a rigorous ordeal going to the Kubert School. And when I was searching for schools to go to, it was definitely one of the top ones that popped up in the search bar to head out to. And as for this YouTube channel or this podcast, it's definitely for guys that are trying to make it full time in comics. That's both me and Nico's goal, to make it full time in comics and to share basically everything we learn along the way to get there. Right now, we both work 9 to 5 jobs and we do our comics on the side. So every episode, we'll just be talking about how we get one step by step closer to making it full time and just quitting our jobs and drawing full time. So
Yeah, I like the sound of that. No, that's yeah. So yeah, I second that. That's just kind of what this channel is for. We just kind of wanted to do this little intro to kind of kick off the channel, to let you guys know what the kind of mission statement of this channel is, and just the nature revolving around comics discussion and creating comics. So probably every episode, I kind of want to do this little segment where we kind of go through what we're working on for the week, maybe different projects, kind of, what kind of status updates we're doing. It might be a little stagnant some weeks, but at the end of the day, we just kind of want to talk and discuss and let you guys know just kind of what we're doing on our journey for the week. Ken, what you got going on this week?
well, I want to say that on that point of being like stagnant, like that's how it is for many weeks doing comics. It feels like nothing happens for a really long time, and then all of a sudden everything happens all at once. So yeah, I'm working on issue 2 of Air Rider. I'm doing the coloring and the final lettering for that. So I'm doing the sound effects and final colors on that. I'm also coloring a project for a friend on the side, and I can't really say too much about that, but I'm pretty excited about the about how those pages are coming out. So I can't really show anything going on right now, but I do be posting on Twitter very often. So you guys can check me out at the Kami Ken on Twitter to see any progress that I'm posting on Air Rider 2 and other things.
Nice, man. Yeah. And we'll talk more about where you can reach us and everything later at the end of the episode. For me, yeah. So I'm kind of real deep into a project right now, a self-published thing that I'm most likely going to be kickstarting towards the end of this year. It's a graphic novel, so it's taken me a hell of a long time, and I've kind of got a crazy kind of process on it. Something that's not super typical, I don't think, because I am pencil, inking, and watercoloring all traditionally all on the boards. So it's taken me a pretty long time.
Yep.
But I haven't made like an official announcement yet. I'm still trying to kind of decide, how to announce it and how soon to announce it before I'm ready to like actually sell it.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So for now, I've got some shows coming up. My first show of the year is actually in San Antonio at the end of March, and so
Right.
what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to have the first chapter of the graphic novel ready to go in print form, just to kind of act as like a teaser, kind of like a first printing of the story, and distribute that. So I'm gonna be giving a lot more updates and stuff. You can kind of see. So Instagram is like my main method of sharing artwork and everything.
Okay.
Yeah. So and I'm kind of posting little snippets of like panels and stuff.
Right.
Nothing like no official announcement or anything, but you can kind of see like the style and just the influences behind it, and just kind of just trying to be artsy with it, man. I'm
Right.
trying to watercolor down and just kind of make it. I'm trying to make it unique and different from the
Right.
other stuff that's out there. And I think I'm getting pretty close to that. So I'm excited to share more as time comes. But it's just all about. We'll probably talk more about marketing and stuff, and maybe Ken, you probably have some tips for me and you guys out there as well.
Oh yeah.
When to share this stuff, how soon before the book is ready, and everything. So
Yep.
cool. Anything else on the weekly grind? I guess we can call it the weekly grind segment of the show.
Yeah. No, I got nothing else on that. But yeah, I was just kind of like resisting the urge to like swipe over to Instagram and see what you're putting out there. I think the most exciting part about posting your stuff is like starting to see the audience reaction to your work, and hopefully if it's a positive one, you feel almost vindicated or validated that you're just like, okay, this is actually connecting with somebody out there.
Yeah, for sure. That's why I'm excited to share it because, like I said, I do think it's pretty unique, and it might be bringing back some kind of like, a genre of old school comics that they don't do too much in anymore. So,
Right.
um, yeah, man. But so cool. So that's just kind of what we're working on for the week. Let's kind of go ahead and switch over to kind of the main topics point for
Right.
this first episode. And that's really what we want to talk about. And what I want to ask you, Ken, is why comics? What is it about comics that inspires you to make them? This can be, things from your past, things from the present. Just what is that? What are those things that inspire you so much to actually put in all the time and effort, as we know it takes,
Yep.
make these pages?
If I get started now answering your question, we'll be here until tomorrow. But for the sake of the show, I'll keep it very short. Um, I'd say very simply that I do comics because I want to destroy people's emotions
Mm,
because I'm a very sick person. But it's mostly because I want to affect people's emotions in the same way that my emotions were affected when I read some of the best comics I've ever read. And the some of the best comics I've read were in black and white. They didn't have inks, and it was just a very simple story that wasn't very long. And those stories inspired me because they showed me how little it takes to actually affect somebody's emotions. And I was inspired by that to create something that I couldn't. I didn't have to become a movie director. I didn't have to learn animation. I didn't have to gather all these skills and all these people. I could just do it by myself and put it out to people. And hope it gets an emotional effect back. So my whole reason for doing comics was to affect people's emotions in the same way that I was affected reading my favorite comics growing up. That would be stuff like Naruto um, or just like anime, manga, and I got into comics like when I was in my teens, so stuff like that. And yeah, that's my
Yeah, so
reason why.
yeah, you're predominantly manga influenced, right? That's kind of
Ye-
your kind of base level entry point.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like actually, it started with cartoons like Scooby Doo, but I got into anime and manga like with Pokemon and Naruto later on in life, and that's what really influenced my style from then on.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, yeah, man. It's that's awesome. Wanting to
Appreciate
destroy people's emotions.
it.
That is quite the line as what got you into comics. You want to slay some hearts.
Yeah,
Hit
exactly.
it. No, that's awesome. Yeah, man. So for me, in terms of what inspires me for comics and why comics,
Yep.
uh, predominantly, man, I just I've been reading comics forever. The very first comic that really showed me what comics could be was Frank Miller's Sin City.
Oh yeah.
Um, and for any of those who have read it, which hopefully it's all of you watching this channel because it's kind of a required reading for this channel,
Yep.
in a way. Not really, but it's the black and white, the figure work, the just total uniqueness around that book was just super exciting to me. It was unlike anything I had ever seen in comics. No superheroes, no super villains. It was just kind of like, well, there's super villains, but it's just kind of like everyone is a bad guy. Some are
Yeah.
just some are just worse than others, right?
Right.
And just Frank Miller's approach to it was just so artistic and just so just kind of groundbreaking to me.
Yeah.
Um, and ever since then, man, I thought that comics were like the best medium in the world because it kind of takes the best of visual art, things like cinema, things like movies, shows, and kind of aligns that with prose and like with novel writing and with short stories.
Yeah.
You can't really do that in any other medium except for comics.
Yep.
Um, and it just has this like unique kind of raw guttural feeling with that process and just in terms of like the grandest thing to me is like you can me or anybody else watching out there, no matter how entry level you are or how expert level you are, you can sit down with one page of a comic and draw anything, everything. You can draw the quietest moment, you can draw the biggest explosion, you can draw the weirdest looking monster,
Yep.
all right there on the page. You don't need a team, you don't need a big bad budget to do it. Everything that you have is in your head and you can pour that out onto the paper and have a story to show everyone, next week. You can't
Yeah.
do that. You can simply cannot do that in any other medium.
Yep.
And to be honest, I mean, that's just what inspires me the most to know that, me being kind of a storyteller by nature, that I can sit down one day, have an idea, make a one-page comic out of it or a 20-page comic out of it, and run with it and have that produced work there ready to show people.
Yeah.
And to kind of get back to your point, at that case, you can destroy people's emotions, with
Yep.
that page. But what do you think? Like another thing that's inspiring to comic about comics to me, is that um, there's so many different styles and so many different, you know, basically styles of artists, right? So you have like a
Yeah.
Mike Mignola, you've got like a Jim Lee, you know,
Hmm.
these kind of artists almost they're like within their styles there's like emotion within their styles themselves. So
Yeah.
what do you kind of does that kind of speak to you too, where you can almost like see the uniqueness within these different types of artists and cartoonists?
Yeah. I was really thinking about this very deeply at work. I have a very non-mental job. It's I wash dishes, so it's like I don't have to, you know, tax myself mentally, so I can think about nonsense all day. Um, so I was thinking about styles and art styles being kind of a entry point for people to get into a work. Like sometimes the art style of a work will put people off before they even like give it a chance. And over repeated like exposure to it, maybe somebody will be like, okay, maybe I wanna give this a shot and read it or something like that. But there's just some styles that just won't connect to the person no matter how many times you show them. And I always felt like, okay, there's a ton of books that I'm not even looking at, reading, or even like giving a chance. But I'm intensely focused on the ones that I bought, or the ones that I have in my hands, or the ones that I consider my greatest influences. And I always felt like the art style was the entry point for people to really uh, get into that. So I think the first step to, I guess, delivering that emotional impact to somebody's like feelings or somebody's heart is basically you're drawing in a style that captures them just off of face value, just off of the cover of it. Um, if you're and that's not up to you to decide who gets captured by it. It has to basically capture yourself first.
Yeah.
And that's how I think about art and art styles. When you're drawing to impress yourself first or to emotionally affect yourself first, then you can definitely affect somebody else.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I think that kind of rings true with, relating back to us as cartoonists, just kind of the things that influence our actual art, right? So,
Hmm.
you're more manga inspired. You like, kind of that fuller body kind of action line.
Yeah,
Whereas maybe me, myself, I'm more of, indie type of stuff, things like a
yeah,
Jeff Lemire, things like a Matt Kent. I enjoy those type of things. So it's kind of interesting how, those things inspire our actual work, um,
right.
is there, as far as like um, tools and whatnot, do you think tools kind of affect that style, or in those things that kind of inspire you? For instance, like if you like something like a Frank Quietly, um, you know, are you kind of gravitating towards other tools to kind of capture that, or what do you think about that? Do you kind of choose your tools respective to what kind of styles you want to capture?
Oh, definitely. I think so for sure. Because like even the difference between yours and my style, you're going with watercolor and inked line to evoke the type of scenes and emotions that you're trying to portray in your work. And then I've always been attracted to like a bolder style, like a more like I guess visceral, impactful type work. So I always use like a nib pen to get my lines out, and that's how I've always seen my favorite artists draw. They'll use a nib pen, and as soon as I figured out that most manga artists were using G pens to draw their work, I wanted to get one,
Hmm.
and I had to settle for the American version for the longest time. But even Nick Patera, he'll use um, fine line microns like this.
Yeah.
Like he'll use that for his comics because he was inspired by Frank Quietly, and he wants to get his lines to be closer to that style, that feeling. So he'll use the kind of tool set that'll allow him to do that.
Right. Yeah. So just kind of going back, um, just to your Kubert school stuff, were there any kind of big uh, inspirational guys there that really influenced you a lot? Teachers wise, or maybe some of your peers, some of your students. or did you kind of really maybe get more of that from the stuff you read or the stuff you watched, manga or anime, or did you have any of those type of influences at your actual school?
Yeah. There
I
was.
don't, I don't, I don't like that look in your eyes.
Oh yeah. There was. We had a teacher. His name was Tom Mandrake, and he had a really strong style. Every time I would see his pages posted up, like in real life, I'd be like, how is this even possible
Yeah,
on paper? Like, how are you able to do that? Because it looks professional on the page itself, and I was like, how does he
looks
make
like a
it
print,
look?
right?
Yeah, like, but even better than a print because you're seeing the full work. He did all his work on the page, and it's just like, this is amazing. And there was one other guy. His name was dang, I'm trying to remember right now, and it started with a J. I think his name was Josh Hedgeland, and I don't want to misremember it, but he was a younger guy, and he was actually really really good. Um, in fact, I think he dropped out of his, or he finished second year, and he just started getting professional work from that point on because he was always training his style, training, or not training his style, but training his work. And I would always be looking at his work, and I'm like, okay, how can I take from that and add it to my style? Because he's doing such a good job with it. He's focusing on how to actually make the details look correct, and his style was very, you could say it was like Jason Fabok or David Finch,
Mm.
and I could see that he was trying to pursue those guys, and I was like, man, that's really, his work was really strong because of that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I mean, I can imagine. We're talking about inspiration and everything, but we'll later on down the road, we'll definitely get into for you viewers out there, we'll definitely get more involved into kind of Ken's journey there at the Kubert School and just kind of almost
Yep.
his day-to-day life stuff, because I'm sure you guys, as I am, are super interested in that. But I could just imagine, waking up every day with like the sole purpose to draw comics, and everybody around you's sole purpose is to draw comics.
Whoa,
And
whoa, not
well,
everybody.
okay. See,
Not everybody.
not,
Some,
not everybody. You
some.
spend however much tuition is on
Oh yeah.
on going, and you don't get the education. I guess it's just like, because I went to college as well. I got my undergrad degree at LSU, but in something completely unrelated to the arts. But I mean, those same people were in classes too. You're dropping 40, 50 grand a semester or whatever it is, and like you're just never going to class and like failing tests. So
Yep.
it's kind of funny how those guys exist everywhere. But
Well, actually, I
yeah.
wanted to ask you, like, how did you, I guess, keep the fire going within yourself as a self-taught artist without really a whole ecosystem around you of people wanting to just draw all the time? Did you seek that out, or how'd you keep going until now?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's just kind of been that kind of thing. So whenever, when I was very young, I was always kind of writing short stories and stuff, just, like actual prose kind of short stories, actual written work without, artwork.
Right,
So I was always a storyteller.
right,
Um, and it was just kind of one of those things when I was in high school. I really wanted to do animation stuff. So I was super inspired by like old school cartoons, and then like some of
yeah,
like the animated stuff that I was watching at the time, and that was something that I really gravitated towards. But you know all the elders and all the advice givers around me were like, you know, animation is cool and everything, but a career in the arts, that's just not going to pay, and you're not going to get anywhere with it.
right,
So, of course, I was influenced by those comments. So, I kind of did something related to it, and I started out my undergrad in computer science,
Right.
which, okay, coding and animating is very, very different. But I thought it was at least somewhat related to kind of that field, because you can write software and like animation software and stuff. But I started out in computer science for about a year and a half, and I absolutely hated it. It was just coding was just not the thing for me. I could not just sit there and just type zeros and ones all day.
Yeah.
I switched majors, but always in the background, I was always drawing and writing stories. I mean, that was just always my thing. And
Right.
then whenever I graduated that, I got more involved into it, but still not to the point where, I was dedicated enough for it. And actually, when I went to WonderCon one year, I forget which year it was, WonderCon in Anaheim. And by this time, I had started, doing some comic stuff. But I went to WonderCon in Anaheim, and I met a whole bunch of awesome, indie creators, and went to like this networking event that they had.
Yeah.
And it was super inspiring. And I was just like, man, this is something that I want to do. So even when I was doing my master's degree, like I was literally working full time, doing full time master's degree, and then like making comics in all my other spare time because I was trying to
Right.
do more shows and stuff like that. So it was like talk about the comics grind, that was it,
Yeah.
like full time student, full time professional work, and then making comics. But just from there, just like I just caught the bug, and like I said, like the inspiration stuff that's kind of like you know I can do all this stuff all by myself if I wanted to, and kind of get these stories out there in this kind of awesome visual medium that I've always loved.
Yep.
So yeah, it's just been kind of like that, and now it's just a thing that's just ingrained in me, and I'm going to shows and stuff a lot more. This year, we'll talk more about it later, I'm sure, but I'm going to Heroes Con this June, which I'm
Yeah.
super excited for because that's supposed to be like the comics con,
Right.
for so it's just kind of always being inspired by that stuff too, man. So that's just kind of what keeps the fire going. And whenever you finish a page and I throw some watercolor on it, I'm like, damn, like this is some pretty cool stuff, and
Yeah.
that sometimes you got to inspire yourself, especially
Right.
on those slow days. Because I'm sure you have those days too, right? Where you're kind of like in a state where you're like, man, like I can't get this panel right. Like, why am I doing this? Like, spending so much time on this thing. I mean,
Right.
what do you think? Does that happen to you often, or every so often?
It happens a lot. Um,
Yeah.
it's like you're sitting there and it's just like I wish I just stuck to like reading comics. Like drawing them, the proportion of drawing to reading time is insane. It takes me like a whole week to draw like maybe 2 pages, and then the person who's reading them is just like, and then it's done. Like they read it for 2 seconds and then it's over. But I'm so excited about the story as a whole that I don't mind the little bits where I have to just switch the layer and like ink on that layer and then go back to the other layer and then color
Yeah.
on that layer. Like I don't mind the little tidbits here and there if it means that I get to put out a great story to somebody.
Right. Yeah, and it's almost like the thing where it's um, sometimes I can't even read comics because it's like I'm constantly looking at every little detail. I'm trying to analyze the perspective. I'm trying to analyze, the shading on this thing, and it's almost, like you said, some point, sometimes you're like, man, like I'm so invested in this stuff. Like I wish I would have just stuck to reading them. you know,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
it's crazy to kind of think about that, but um, I think at the end of the day, we all have such a great passion for this, and some of you out there watching as well. At the end of the day, it's worth it because I think it certainly is the best medium in the world. And yeah, man, I'm constantly inspired by indie comics and stuff, guys like you can, and Yeah, you have anything else to say on our main topic for the day?
No, I think that's it for me. I thought this was a very solid topic to start out with, and
Yeah, yeah, and
yeah,
we'll get into more in-depth topics, and we got some really cool subjects and stuff lined up. This was kind of just a good intro one, just for you guys out there that are watching. Leave some comments under there. Let us know what inspires you, what comics inspires you, and what kind of keeps you waking up in the morning and wanting to make comics. This channel is a discussion channel between me and Ken and other guests, maybe at some point as well.
yeah,
But for sure, we want to have the dialogue with the creators out there because, like we said up at the top, this channel is for those people who want to create comics and are creating comics, and we want to have this dialogue between us and between you guys. So definitely comment, share, whatever you got to do to kind of let other creators know about it. But so we're gonna go ahead and wrap up. Ken, where can the good people out there find you? What are your socials, your book? Where can people read your stuff?
Well, first I have my YouTube channel. That's Comiken. That's Comiken. And then my Twitter, which I'm most active on, is at the Comiken. Basically the same spelling. And then I have my Instagram, but I don't post there as often. And my comic is Air Rider. It's Air Dash Rider, and that's on Global Comics. I think maybe in future shows we'll get around to like pitching our comic ideas and telling people what we're working on and that kind of thing.
Oh yeah, yeah, I'd love that because I'd love to hear like your inspirations behind that comic and just kind of what got you in the headspace to make your characters and everything.
Right?
Uh,
Yeah.
That'd be cool. Yeah, and you guys can find me. I am most active on Instagram at Nico Writes. That's NICO_WRITES. I'm also at Nico Writes on Twitter, but I'm not great with Twitter. I'm much more active and on Instagram. I'm constantly posting sketches and my most up-to-date work. Also, you can find me on my Substack, nicorodriguez.substack.com. It's called Wicked Green Monkey. Basically, there I am posting just process articles, things that inspire me, some webcomic stuff, little shorts that I do here and there whenever I have free time, and just kind of things revolving around comics and creativity. It's kind of a more intimate look at my work, a little more deep. It's deeper than what you would see on my Instagram page. But my Instagram page is my most kind of active thing that I'm on. As far as work wise, like I told you guys up front, I'm working on a graphic novel that I'm not going to spoil too much yet on, but it's going to be some awesome stuff, and we're going to talk more about it in a little bit, in some future episodes. Um, Me and Ken are going to be doing some shows and stuff later this year. We'll kind of plug
Yep.
those a little later on as well. But for me and Ken, that's it for episode 1 of the Comics Grind. We'll talk to you next week.